There are spoilers ahead, so if you haven't played the game yet, watch this video after finishing the game. Someone requested an analysis of his theme from Undertale in my last video, but I came to the conclusion that it wouldn't really make much sense to analyze it by itself since it wouldn't be too interesting. I'd just be like, hey, there's a subdominant followed by a dominant, yay! So instead I'll talk about something more general, leitmotifs. A leitmotif is a melodical motif, a rhythm, or a certain chord progression, or even just a chord by itself that appears as a variation in multiple pieces within a bigger work. A musical, for example, or a movie, or of course a video game. It's usually linked to something like a certain person or a feeling. It shouldn't be confused with reminiscence though, which is the exact repetition of a piece. So here's an example to show you how a leitmotif could be used. Imagine a video game in which the main character has a love interest, and this love interest has her own theme. It plays whenever she does something important concerning the story, or whenever she charges into battle or whatever. And now imagine there being a huge fight at about the end of the game. The main character and her get separated, they barely win the fight in the end though. Now the main character is searching for her, and then he seems to see something on the ground. And terror paints his face. At that moment, a sad theme starts playing which has the same melody as the main part of the love interest's theme. You've associated her with this melody because it plays every time she appears or does something important. This makes the scene even more grave. This also contributes to the show don't tell principle. Even before the main character steps closer to confirm that she's the one lying on the ground, or the game tells us with text that it's her, the player gets an idea that it's probably her. The realization creeps up to the player, it's not thrown right in his face. His feelings are actually quite similar to the main characters at this moment. It's just a hint that it may be her, it's not certain yet, and the player keeps hoping that it's not her. But the figure on the ground for the main character or the music for the player makes this unlikely, and as the main character turns her face up, he and the player realize that it's really her. That's one way to use a leitmotif. You can also glue together certain things in the game, like certain people or places, to signalize that they are part of one big thing. The snow area in Undertale is one example. Watch this video by Jacob the Quiz Guy if you want to see what I'm talking about, since I'm not going to go too deep into that. But in essence, Toby Fox did what Off did with colors musically. In Off, each area has a distinctive color scheme. In Undertale, a lot of the areas have one distinct leitmotif. A big plus of using the leitmotif technique is also that these motifs become more memorable, as you hear them over and over again in different variations. Now let's get to the main part of this video, how leitmotifs can be varied and how Undertale does it. It's important to note though that many leitmotif variations are usually combinations between multiple techniques used at the same time. One way to vary a leitmotif is by changing the instrumentation, either partially or completely, just like in Home. Here the instrument changes from guitar to music box. Another way would be to add or subtract instruments, like in the fighting theme for Pyrus. Here the drums kick in as soon as he hits you with his blue attack. Later on more instruments are added, like strings, which weren't there before in Nyehehe. Another way would be to change the accompaniment, just like in Your Best Nightmare. See how the melody stays pretty much the same? Only the rest of the instruments play something different every time. Changing the rhythm is also an option. That's the case in Enemy Approaching and Heartache. You can definitely hear how the melody is pretty much the same, just the rhythm is differently. The tempo is another factor you could change. Fallen Down and Empty House are good examples for that. Empty House is way slower than Fallen Down. You can also take this to the extreme. This way you can hide a reference, which Toei liked to do. You can also possibly save data space and reduce the number of pieces needed in one project. Humaniki did a lot too, by the way. You can also distort pieces. The easiest way to explain what I mean would be to just show you this example. See how the speed and pitch changes randomly? It seems stitched together and jumps all over the place. This creates a really creepy effect. Perfect for video games where a cute facade suddenly drops. End Roll is a good example of this technique as well. The happy sounding town theme suddenly changes into this abomination. Okay, this technique is for me one of the most important ones, changing the feeling, like taking a rather calm piece and making it creepy, or making an upbeat piece sad, just like in the example I've given at the very beginning. Snowy and Dating Fight are a good example. The calm Snowy turns into the upbeat Dating Fight. Suns and It's Raining Somewhere Else is another one. A happy and jammy piece gets turned into a calm piano ballad. Now, last of all, you could also hide a leitmotif in a rather alone-standing piece like Nia He He in Song That Might Play When You Fight Suns, this way hinting at a connection. Hope and Dreams, and especially Bring It In Guys, are prime examples of the usage of different leitmotifs in one piece. This gives the whole thing a final feel, which makes sense since Hope and Dreams is the final boss fight of the Pacifist run and Bring It In Guys is the credits theme, where every character makes a cameo. Check out Jacob the Quiz Guy's video on all the leitmotifs in Hopes and Dreams if you want a detailed video on all the different leitmotifs used in there. He didn't make one for Bring It In Guys yet, but maybe he will sometime in the future. Those are all the possibilities that I was able to come up with and explain using examples from Undertale. Feel free to leave a comment if you know of any more. If you enjoyed this video, then you might want to watch my first analysis video over here. It was on ReZero's music. Or you might enjoy some of my other content. I cover music from anime and video games, arrange pieces from RPG Maker games, and upload original compositions. Okay then, see you next time. Bye.